Welcome to UpWell The Podcast. I'm Sarah, and this is my beautiful co-host, Katie. As fellow female entrepreneurs turned friends and now business partners, we are so happy you're here.
With every episode, it is our sole purpose to share authentic conversations to inspire your personal level up. Take our curiosity, add your best intentions, and flow with us in the UpWell.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of UpWell The Podcast. I'm Sarah, and this is my beautiful co-host, Katie.
Hello.
We're happy that you're here.
Yes, we got matching hairdos today.
No, it was very accidental.
It was very accidental. Neither one of us wanted to wash our hair, so we ended up with ponytails today.
That'll be a question we ask on social media next week. How long do you go
without washing your hair?
Yeah, I'm a 9-dayer in the winter. It's pretty bad.
I don't know that I go down.
Mine's pretty bad. I wear a lot of hats, though.
I wear a lot of stocking caps.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Well, we have a really fun guest with us today. He is actually my coach. So we chat quite a bit. So I'm super excited to have him with us today. My friend Matt from Phorm HQ is going to be talking all about personal development with us today.
I'm excited for this. Personal development is one of my favorite topics to talk about.
I know, us too. Welcome, Matt.
What's going on, guys? I am so
happy that you're here. So for our listeners and anybody that's tuning in, tell us a little bit about who you are, give us your background story, what you're doing now, and then we'll kind of dive into the deeper stuff.
Yeah, I think it's good to, create a little bit of, or painting a picture, just for as far as my background and, where I'm really at and kind of where I came from, right? So I guess taking it back, from the beginning, just kind of keeping it high level, I really ended up growing up in a very small town, super small town, one street light. Kind of giving you guys really that view that it doesn't really matter where you come from. Grew up, farm town, all those good stuff. Didn't really have anything kind of handed to me, growing up. I would say lower middle class type of family. And originally, inside of my career, I would say, we'll kind of get into this, but got into, now I'm in health and wellness, and my career really in health and wellness essentially. But before health and wellness, my whole career was originally automotive performance. So spent a long time, in the automotive performance industry. So kind of directly after high school, I didn't go to college, never went to, furthering school after that. And I'll just kind of keep it short and sweet, but I ended up graduating high school and started working for professional race teams. So grew up in New England and in Massachusetts, and then ended up moving to Florida. I worked for some race teams down there for a couple of years. Ended up moving to California, LA. Lived there for a couple of years. Worked for a couple of race teams there, but that was a transitional point of my life and growth in that industry. Ended up starting my own business and had my own business for about 2.5 years. Employees, all that good stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And ended up closing that down. Kind of transitioned into contract mechanical engineering. Again, didn't go to school, but kind of took up the role. Learned a lot from years of experience with that, and ultimately moved into really coaching or personal coaching, fitness coaching, health and wellness coaching in parallel. That I was also essentially in the automotive space as well, or contract engineering space as well. So that was
how did you get into health and wellness? Was that something that were you like fitness buff in high school? Did you love eating kale? Like, give us the background of how you kind of got into that.
Oh, that's awesome. So I would say that I always loved health, wellness. I grew up playing sports. I raced motocross growing up. Throughout my life and career, I kind of always stayed active, but with, I would say, poor choices growing up. Even in my career, I would go to the gym, but I still had poor choices. whether it was eating or, going out and partying or just whatever the case is, right? So, um, it was always a part of my life, but never took it really serious, I would say, until I kind of hit some really interesting parts of my life as far as closing down the business. I ended up losing my dad to cancer. So, ended up going through a lot of, I look at it now where, I take responsibility for my own actions and things like that, but honestly developed a lot of bad habits. And, those lasted for a period of time and I gained about 45 pounds of unhealthy weight. And at that period of time, there was one day that I pretty much just looked at myself in the mirror and said, look, like, this isn't you. This isn't you any longer. And, I took it a lot, way more serious than I had in the past, years, to where I hyper focus on nutrition, exercise, really just living that better, health and wellness lifestyle. And, now I kind of look at health where it's not only the physical side of things, but it's mental and spiritual. And the mental and spiritual side of things really are huge for me and a huge impact for myself and really what I portray to, give to others and inside of, coaching and kind of my, career now. So, um, those are huge pieces for me. So that's how I originally, kind of got into it. But took it really, really serious kind of after I hit a lot of those lows.
Yeah, I really connect with everything that you just said. And I think probably a lot of people do that start their life transformation, if you will, on the physical side. Like they know they want to make a change, whether that's losing weight or, improving their fitness or their health. And then it really does act as a catalyst and turns into, the mental and the spiritual side and starting to open new doors in both of those areas of your life too. So I want to ask you, because I want to pick your brain and learn so much from you when it comes to personal development, because I know your mental and your spiritual well-being are super, super important to you as well as your physical fitness and health. So tell me a little bit about how you kind of figured out that all of them were connected, I guess, and then what were kind of your first steps when you got into the personal development world?
Yeah, I would say kind of how all of them are connected, right? So I would say one, it really starts with the mental side of things, and choosing those decisions, right? And what I mean by that is keeping the promises to yourself. It's a very powerful tool to be able to keep the promises to yourself. If you say, "Hey, I'm going to, track my food today," or "I'm not going to track my food today," or honestly, just make the decisions to show up to that family party and do what you got to do or not. But essentially the mental side of things, keeping the promises to yourself on a day-to-day basis is extremely powerful because the physical side of things ultimately just reflects what it looks like from the inside. And I had to learn that to begin with because yeah, somebody can be unhappy or disgruntled or, I'll use my personal experience, right? Like, I didn't like the way that I looked, I didn't like the way that I felt. But it took a period of time for me to realize that I was self-reflecting in that unhappiness. I think it's a struggle for a lot of individuals, myself included, to take a very hard look in the mirror and be brutally honest. And, I think when you say brutally honest, okay, well, let's not just say, hey, I'm unhappy and I do this. Okay, well, why am I unhappy? How did I get here? Our past decisions has put us in our, position that we're in today. And I think that self-reflection of understanding, hey, my past decisions have put me into my present. What does that look like? What kind of decisions did I make? Right. And what kind of decisions do I need to make for the future? And those reflection points were a huge connection piece for me and understanding, hey, the mental side is directly correlated to the physical side. My decisions that I make are ultimately going to reflect what I look like on the outside and how I feel and what my confidence is a lot of things. That's not just physical. It's, that confidence, that drive, that ambition that gets conjured up while you keep the promises to yourself. But additionally, the spiritual side of things, what I like to look at it is belief and faith. And, I wear a cross. Of course, it's actually my dad's cross, but I'm not a huge religious guy, but I do believe in the universe. I do believe in energy. I believe that the energy that you put out into the universe and how you talk to others, how you talk to yourself incredibly powerful from the decisions that you make that lead to the physical side of things, right? So, it all goes in parallel where you have to have faith and belief for a better life and that you can make these decisions on a day-to-day basis to then make them stay true to the process where you're not going to see a direct result right away and continue down and continue to have that faith in the process and stay consistent and ultimately build yourself into whoever you want to be.
I love that
Snaps to
because
that. I know, that was so good.
I love that. And I really agree with you on the whole mental, physical side of things, because I feel like a lot of people actually are stuck in a mental block, or they're having mental struggles. But the first thing that most people have a tendency to do is focus on the physical because they're afraid to kind of tap into or really address those mental things. So they start with the physical side. They don't like how they look physically, so they're going to start there, but then it's through that physical work that they ultimately end up doing the mental work and feel more comfortable kind of introspection and really digging into what the core issue is at heart. And that's when the spiritual side pulls in and you're just like, okay, yeah, faith and belief and just connection to the higher source. And it all becomes this connection. But I do think physical is where it starts, even though mental is the issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think a lot of people understand that though.
No.
You see your physical self in the mirror and you can say, oh, I'm not happy with that.
Correct.
But you don't wake up in the morning and like think about what you're thinking all the time or think about your choices, like you're saying, and you don't question them. Nobody just starts thinking about their mental state. Usually it's like, oh, what's looking back in the mirror
exactly
is what I'm unhappy with, when ultimately, like Matt said, it starts in your mind, because it starts with what you're choosing to repeat on a daily basis. And then when you actually connect the two, that's when I feel like long-term success is attainable, because I think so many people in our industry, and I'm sure Matt sees a lot of this too, and I know Katie can attest to this, but so many people seek the physical change, and don't have long-term successful results, where they yo-yo in their weight, or they can, they accomplish short-term things and then can't maintain it. But I think it is that lack of mental and spiritual connection, and being able to tie all three together and utilize them in a way, that makes sense and kind of builds that foundation for the rest of forever.
Yeah. Kind of creating that synergistic energy of the three things.
I couldn't agree more. And I think a huge piece, not only for myself, but I think a lot of individuals too, is look, like I think a tangible piece where, you're building these things, or you're starting this journey, or you're thinking about falling off, right? Is, I like to say stack wins, or, be able to build that belief, right? Well, we have to identify what a win actually looks like on a day-to-day basis from a decision making, right? Even if it's saying, hey, I just need to get out for 15 minutes or 20 minutes and go for a walk, but you keep that promise to yourself every single day without deviation. And over time, look, we're not going to see a direct result of what you deem success, right? I think what a lot of individuals struggle with is actually their definitions of these things. And definitions meaning, like, what is the definition of a win? What is a definition of success? What is a definition of belief? Like, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis? This comes from self-reflection, but ultimately we need to be able to identify what a win looks like for you on a day-to-day basis, stack those wins and have that compound effect to then identify what success looks like, or, what progress looks like on a day-to-day basis, to be able to finish, cross that finish line and then reset a new finish line. A lot of individuals, they move the finish line from time to time, and then they never cross the finish line. So we never get to reflect on that. And then that's where we fall off the boat. So it's a huge piece to be able to, one, identify what these definitions are when we're on this process and through this lifestyle, or creating a better lifestyle. And not only, physical, but I think, in health in general, just living, a better life. But additionally, be able to believe and trust in the process, because we live in a world where we get instant text messages, we get instant emails, we get instant gratification from going on YouTube and social media and all these things. This life is not an instant success. You're not going to see the results for that you're putting in today until 90 days from now. So 30, 60, 90, it's a compound effect over time that you honestly have to realize through your definitions and set the expectations up for yourself up front, and continue to hold that line, as you cross the finish line.
I can say though, after 2 weeks of upping my my training, my booty gains have been phenomenal in just 2 weeks. So I'm gonna throw that out there and just say that we were talking about that right before we got on here with you. I had to throw that in there though. So it's important. It is important.
No, and I love that. And I think I mean, but even 2 weeks, right? Like, it's not going to be a day. It's not going to be 2 days. It's gonna be 3 days. And even in 2 weeks, it might be, I mean, honestly, it might be 5 pounds. It might not even be 5 pounds. The scale actually
Right.
might go the opposite direction that you're after, but maybe you feel better. Maybe you're getting better sleep. Maybe your clothes feel better. Maybe you're gaining confidence because you are keeping those decisions to yourself on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
That's where the wins are, and that's where the definitions are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just hit the nail on the head. And that's what I was going to say earlier is I think, that the biggest win anyone can have on a daily basis is keeping a promise that they make to themselves, whether that's X amount of water in ounces they're going to drink that day, whether that's, cooking at home instead of going out to eat for their meals, like all of those things, like you said, they're small and you might not wake up tomorrow with abs, but 30 days from now, 90 days from now, you're going to see and look and feel so different, not just physically, but mentally. And the amount of confidence you're going to gain because you kept showing up for yourself and keeping the promises to yourself is the part that is the intrinsic motivator for the future. I think people give up before they start to have that belief in themselves, going back to the belief, but the belief is built. You don't wake up one day and say, I believe in myself today. It's because you made a promise to yourself and you kept it. And then the next day you challenged yourself a little bit more. You did something a little bit more difficult and you showed up to do it anyway. And then that belief system gets stronger and stronger over time.
And then it almost becomes you're addicted to that thing that you're doing or that goal that you're accomplishing every day, or just kind of like, yes, and then when you don't hit it, there happens to be a day where you might not hit it. You're like, oh man, I need that back in my life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it keeps you moving forward.
1000%. I couldn't agree more.
Well, tell me from your standpoint, how has kind of developing your physical fitness and your mental resilience, we'll call it, how has that helped you in all aspects of your life?
That's a great question. I love that question. I would say developing, it's poured into every single piece of my life. Honestly, it's very emotional because, you understand, even just kind of talking about my past a little bit, closing business down, losing my dad. It was a very hard time to keep the promises to myself and want to gain instant gratification from, whether it's, endorphin releases or just whatever the case is, whether it's, certain addictions or that instant gratification of happiness. Right. And I think the biggest piece for me to kind of start this question off is, now I realize that I am after delayed gratification and delayed happiness. That this has developed and poured into every area of my life. And what I mean by that is not only with my relationships, but financially, my career, everything that I'm doing. I might not get instant gratification today or instant what I deem success today, but I understand that it's going to be that process and a process over a period of time that I need to develop a game plan to be able to hammer down and achieve the things that I want to achieve in life, financially, relationship status, all those pieces in my life that are for me, right? So, where it's not, I'll use this example from a financial standpoint, right? It's like, I do love coffee. I do love, different pieces and foods and things like that. And look, I'm not saying it's bad to go out to eat. I'm not saying it's bad to do these things or have some Starbucks here and there. But when you're having Starbucks every single day, that's $5 a coffee and you're spending $35 a week. Okay, well, what does $35 a week look like over a year? What is that, type of cash flow look like over a year, right? So you really get to, you're consciously thinking about your decisions that you're making on a day-to-day basis towards the future goal. And what I mean by that is like, look, I'm not saying don't get Starbucks twice a week, right? Once a week, 3 times a week, right? But your understanding, is it 7? Is it, 2 times a week? And where is that going to get me financially in the future? So you're hyper conscious of the decisions that you're making financially, relationships, career, all these different pieces, right? A lot of times individuals, they might, leave a position or do this and that. but at the same time within a career status, there's a 50-50 line, right? Because you're 50, you are the reason that you are in the position that you're in, whether you're having a tough conversation with your coworker, boss, whatever you want to call it, management. And okay, well, why am I having this conversation? Why am I doing these things? Self-reflecting on the decisions that you've made to be able to put yourself in that decision. Well, at the same time, am I perceiving the situation the right way? Are they perceiving the situation in the right way, right? When we communicate with other individuals, we have a perception in our own mind to be able to communicate in that way. And we think that we're communicating in a certain way, but is it being received in a certain amount of way, right? Is it being received how we're trying to tell it, right? So we need to take the 50,000-foot view at all these things, and really understand, okay, the words that are leaving my mouth, the decisions that I'm making with relationships, career, family, relationships, financially, all these different areas of my life. Is this putting me in a position to win? Is this actually really setting me up for success long term? And look, like if you're conscious of those decisions and you're hyper aware that that your decisions that you're making are putting you in that role, um, there's no one else to blame except yourself. So I've completely realized that over this journey and building my mindset to this, where it's like, look, I know that I'm in my house for this reason. I know that I'm in my career for this reason. I know that I'm going to these things because of these reasons and the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis. And again, it's a zero compromise, deviation from that. So I think the overall hyper awareness of your decisions has helped me greatly along this personal development path.
For sure. I wanna share one of my favorite quotes from First Form. And I know people say it all the time at HQ, but it's we do the work. And I love that saying. And I know it's applicable to the gym and fitness and tracking your meals and improving your physical health, but it really does trickle into every area of your life. If you can bust your ass and work hard and do hard things on a daily basis to improve your physical self, you can do it in every other aspect of your life. You can have hard conversations with people you love or people that you work with. You can, make challenging financial decisions. All of those other things, all the other facets of your life, you can kind of break down from your physical fitness. So I just love kind of the connection between, the saying of we do the work and having it be applicable to going to the gym and working really hard on your physical self, but then also transmuting that into everything else in your life too.
I actually wanted to circle back to something you said with delayed gratification. I think there's really there's something special there with understanding what that means, because you can really find happiness in the pursuit of that gratification. And I think that is a missing link for so many people, is to understand that the process of it, the happiness that can come from that, not just the reward at the end, but the actual journey of getting there. There's so much to be said for the happiness and just abundance that can be found in that journey,
with the joy in the journey,
and the happiness of the pursuit of getting to that goal. So I loved that you really focus on the delayed gratification, because that warmed my heart, because I was like, oh, he's in the happiness of the pursuit of it. He knows it's going to be coming because he has the mindset that he is going to get there, and it might suck and it might be challenging, but he's enjoying the process of it even when it's hard. And that's a really hard mindset for a lot of people to get into.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more. And just to maybe expand on this a little bit here, I think there's two pieces, right? And the two pieces are the byproduct of the process. And the byproduct of the process is the new house, the new car, the materialistic things, the new body, like all these things that you're after, right? It's the byproduct of the process. And I think individuals, they have a hard time really falling in love with the process, but that comes back to their definitions of what love is. And, being able to really understand, okay, am I enjoying the process? is this sustainable? And am I having productive rhythm, being able to stay consistent on a day-to-day basis towards these goals, right? So there's two pieces of what I would deem as happiness, right? So the process, happiness, or defining that for yourself. Okay, I'm living my life. I, follow this, consistent routine, everything that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, from working out, focusing on every area of my life, doing the best that I absolutely possibly can, and being brutally honest with myself through the process every single day, right? We understand it's going to take consistency over a long period of time. That day-to-day process and routine, it's a constant cycle of self-reflection and pivoting towards that happiness, towards those goals every single day. You're not changing the whole pathway. We're tweaking every single day, right? Through self-reflection, which is a very important piece here. But additionally, through falling in love with the process and staying consistent every single day with the happiness of your life, the materialistic things, the new body, they're just going to happen, right? But when they do happen, you're going to look at them and they're going to be like, man, look at everything that I've done over the last 90 days,
Right.
year, 2 years, all these things. And it's really important because that's part of the self-reflection piece. And when you hit those milestones, essentially, or, let's call it milestones, you know, you look at it and you're like, dude, of course I was going to get there because I've done it, I've been relentless over the last, years or, months, right? So, there's really two pieces there, but the delayed gratification I like to look at as almost a byproduct of just falling in love with the process.
Right.
I love that. I'm gonna get that put on a t-shirt, Matt.
She's gonna get it tattooed.
I am.
On her arm.
Delayed gratification, fall in love with the process. I love
But something to be said for that too, and that, like, we're focusing kind of on the positive side of it. I think it's also important to understand and embrace the negative as well, because without the negative, you're not going to be able to appreciate the positive. So when you have those hard days and when you have those bad days, she asked a question recently on social media, and my answer to that was bad days or darkness so that I can appreciate the light more. And I really think that that's also an important piece too, is to know that there are going to be bad days. It's not always going to be easy, but if you just make the promise to stay consistent, even when you absolutely do not want to do it and it's a really hard day, that's going to make you appreciate that milestone at the end even more.
100%. And I think too, something that I share with a lot of people is that you're never going to start out on a path where there's no obstacles. Like there's always going to be a roadblock or a pothole. Like there's never
there
going to be
wasn't one that we'd all be millionaires with rock hard abs.
Yeah. But I think there is a purpose for those things along the path. I think they're there to teach us lessons,
Absolutely.
to build our own personal resilience, to continue to show up for ourselves, because if things were easy, we could become more lackadaisical in a lot of the things that we're trying to achieve. So, I think the occasional roadblock, whether that's mentally or actually something happening in your life, is an important part of the process, because when you surpass that, when you show yourself that you are strong enough, that you're capable of getting over whatever that thing is or through it, then you really have that moment of self-reflection, and you can say, wow, I'm really proud of myself. I can do hard things. I can keep going. Now the sky's the limit because I just overcame whatever that thing is.
I think this is a really important piece to highlight, right? Because you can't have success without failure, and they go in parallel, and I really look at it as just the process and the journey. And, at the same time, with failure, or it comes again, I want to keep in mind, it comes back to those definitions that we're setting, for what failure is or what hard is. A lot of times, walking for, 30 minutes might be hard for individuals, and it's hard for a lot of individuals, right? Other individuals, it might not be that hard because they've done it, time and time again, or progress, right? So your definition of hard is going to change over time. Your definition of failure is going to change over time, right? And as you continue to compound what hard means to you, you get to go through more and more hard things. And then you're just like, dude, I'm that's not even hard for me anymore. Let's keep taking on more and more, right? Through the process, and this is the journey of personal development as you continue to define these things in your life, and you continue to elevate what these definitions are, which is a huge piece, as you take on more things and more stress. And, a lot of times individuals, they say, oh, I want to stress less. I want to stress less. I actually look at stress where it's very healthy in a very good way, in a sense where when we are feeling stress or we're feeling like we're pressured or we're going through hard times, it's a freaking blessing because that means that we're learning. That means that we're taking on more than we have in the past. We're doing things that we haven't done in the past. That means that we're carving a path for ourselves as an individual on this personal development way. So essentially, when you're feeling these things, view it as a blessing as you are growing and developing towards that next version of yourself.
So good, Matt. This is so good. I'm gonna listen to this like 10 times, I think.
No, it's a matter of taking that and shifting your perspective on it and your response to it. Like if you see stress as a negative or a burden, it's going to be a negative or a burden. If you see it as a blessing or a lesson to teach you something, it's going to be a lesson to teach you something. One of my favorite phrases, and I say this all the time, is if you look for the good, you will find it. If you look for the bad, you will find it. Either way, you are right. And that is, it is what it is. And that's exactly your viewpoint on stress. If you see it as a blessing in a way to teach you something, even though it may be hard and very challenging, it's still, you're coming out on the positive side of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, I could probably talk to you all day. I know I could, but
They do talk all day.
I know. Not every day, but tell, for anybody listening, maybe some of your favorite personal development tools. So this could be anything from podcasts that you listen to on repeat, coaches that you've worked with or learned things from, books that you've read, anything like that.
Books here.
Yeah, we love books.
I love that. Yeah, I would say some of my biggest tools, I do look up to this individual, like crazy. I look up to a couple of individuals like crazy in my life. I think it's really important to have or seek mentors in your life, people that you can lean on, confide in, ask questions, things like that. Andy Frisella, he has a podcast, The Real AF. It was the MFCEO project for that. That's how I originally found out about him and the company from business, literally Googling how to run a business. So the MFCEO project, highly recommend, as well as Ed Milet. Ed Milet has, a podcast, a lot of good books. And additionally, I would say from a book standpoint, one of my favorite authors is Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's very sciencey, energy type of an individual. He has really good books. I highly recommend Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It really brings us through understanding how the chemical connections in our brain form habits, where it's really hard to break a habit because it's a physical connection in our brain versus just something that we think about. So he talks about that. I highly recommend that. Additionally, I would say, yeah, I mean, I really keep it, I would say, tight and close with some of those things, but I would say Sal Frisella, Andy Frisella. I would also drop in Cody Klein in here as well. You can follow him on Instagram. He's an amazing individual to me, really close friend of mine. Look up to him for a lot of different things outside of my career as well, and just that mentor that I really lean into. Just to Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of my favorite authors.
I love the level of manifestation that you Googled how to run a business and found Andy Frisella, and now you work for him. I think that is just a true testament, not only to the power of your mindset, but your own personal grit, your follow through and your not giving up, keeping the promises you made to yourself, starting in the gym, but then expanding into everything else that you've done to positively impact your life and then end up where you are now. And who knows, where you're going to get within the company, soon. I'm sure you're pretty amazing. So
I appreciate that. It was, I mean, that's a real thing. It's pretty crazy because, I think we have tools of the internet and this and that. And when I was running my shop, I literally didn't know anything that I was doing and, just doing it. Right. And, using Google as a tool of like literally just Googling questions like that. His podcast originally popped up and I was like, oh, let me listen to a couple episodes. And, long story short, here I am, back from 2015 to now. So
Yeah, because that's like, look at Andy Frisella's podcast. I mean, literally, he can sit at his cubicle and like look at Andy Frisella's podcast studio. So it's pretty amazing. And that wasn't that long ago. Look at that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, where can people find you online if they want to, follow along with anything that you're sharing or doing?
Yeah. So you can give me a follow on Instagram. It's at Matt, MATT, Zmetra, ZMETRA. I'll give you a follow back. I love Instagram. So I would say Instagram is probably the major platform that I'm on. Aside from that, you can shoot me an email at it is mzmetra@firstform.com. And I am more than happy to help out in any way that I possibly can.
Awesome. Yeah, we will link all of Matt's information in the show notes, just like always, so you can connect with him on social media or shoot him an email if you have more questions about personal development or him and his journey in general.
Awesome. Yeah. So
we're good.
We're good. Yeah. Thank you, Matt, so much for joining
My
us.
pleasure.
This was such a great conversation. So you can find us online at UpWell The Podcast. You can find myself at barefoot.katie. You can find Sarah at Sarah Barron. So until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and take care of the world around you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yes.